My wife MIA always claimed family came first. Her older sister, Carla, had been trying to have kids for years without success. I'd been there through the tears, the IVF failures, the adoption attempts that fell through. So when MIA said she wanted to support Carla more, I didn't question it. She started making regular weekend trips to help out. I thought she was being the perfect sister. But looking back, it started to feel off after the fourth or fifth trip. She always seemed distant when she returned. She'd be quiet, emotionally drained, but not from taking care of Carla. I once asked if everything was okay, and she bit my head off. "I'm doing this for family, you wouldn't understand," she snapped. I let it go. Maybe I shouldn't have. Then one night I noticed something strange. I came home from work early, MIA was still gone on her latest sister weekend, and our joint laptop was left open. Normally she cleared her history, but this time she hadn't. There was a string of emails between MIA and Carla. But what shook me wasn't the content, it was the tone. They were talking in code. Like they were hiding something. One message stood out: "Everything's going according to plan. Once the baby is here, we'll figure out how to explain it to him." The baby. My heart sank. My first thought was she was pregnant. But she wasn't showing. She'd been acting normal. Then I wondered, could Carla be pregnant? But why were they hiding that from me? The next email changed everything. Carla had written, "He still doesn't suspect anything." I'm honestly shocked. "Guess he's as gullible as you said." And MIA replied, "Told you. He never asks questions. One more month and we're done." I froze. My stomach turned. What the hell was going on? I didn't sleep that night. My brain kept racing. What were they hiding? Was MIA helping Carla adopt a child secretly? Were they lying to someone else? Or worse, was I somehow part of whatever they were covering up? The next morning, I did something I never thought I'd do. I followed her. She had told me she was driving to Carla's. But I tracked her phone, she wasn't going anywhere near her sister's place. She drove 3 hours north. To a fertility clinic. I parked across the street and watched her walk in alone. 10 minutes later, Carla showed up. They didn't look surprised to see each other. In fact, they looked coordinated. That's when a horrifying thought hit me. What if MIA wasn't helping Carla get a baby? What if MIA was carrying the baby? What if my wife was a surrogate for her own sister? Without telling me. Without my consent. And somehow, I had a gut feeling that wasn't even the worst part. I sat in that car, hands gripping the steering wheel, sweat dripping down my back despite the AC blasting. I couldn't take my eyes off the clinic doors. My wife was inside with her sister. And now I had the sickest feeling in my gut that she wasn't just visiting, or helping emotionally. No, this was something much more personal. Much more calculated. They stayed inside for over an hour. I watched every couple minutes as women came in and out, some visibly pregnant, some with partners, some alone. But not MIA and Carla. No, they were in there for a purpose. A mission. And I wasn't part of it. When MIA came out, she looked tired, pale, but satisfied. Carla walked next to her, a clipboard in hand, smiling like she'd just won the lottery. They hugged. That's when it hit me harder than ever before: my wife was pregnant. For her sister. And I hadn't been told a damn thing. My mind spun. We had talked about having another child for ourselves not even 6 months ago. MIA had said she wasn't ready and her body needed a break. She even went on a mini health kick, avoiding caffeine, cutting out alcohol, taking supplements. I thought it was for her general health. But now I saw it. She was prepping for someone else's baby. And hiding it. The betrayal wasn't even just the secret, it was that she robbed me of the right to have a say in something so intimate, so huge. She used her body, our relationship, to carry out someone else's plan. I followed them again when they left the clinic. This time to a quiet cafe. They sat at a table near the window. I parked close enough to watch them through binoculars. I'm not proud of that part, but you've got to understand I was losing my mind. They were laughing. Smiling. MIA reached across the table and squeezed Carla's hand. I saw her lean forward and say something, and Carla wiped a tear from her eye. That's when I knew it wasn't just medical, it was personal. There was emotion there. Deep, messy emotion. I needed answers. So I left. Not to confront MIA yet, but to gather proof. I needed to be sure before I accused my wife of something this insane. I dug deep over the next few days. I checked out bank statements, looking for charges to clinics or medical labs. There were plenty. All disguised under vague names like wellness center or private care. I found a folder in her closet marked taxes. Inside, behind old receipts, were 2 contracts. One was between MIA and the clinic, confirming her as a gestational carrier. The other, a legal agreement stating Carla and her husband would have full parental rights. MIA had already signed it. And nowhere was my name. No mention of me. No spousal consent. No disclosure. Nothing. I was completely erased from the biggest decision of our marriage. That's when I decided I wouldn't just confront her. I'd expose her. But first, I needed to see just how far she was willing to lie. I played it cool for a couple of days. That was the hardest part. Pretending everything was normal when my whole world felt like it was cracking beneath my feet. Every time MIA smiled at me, kissed my cheek, or asked me to pass the salt at dinner, I wanted to scream. But I didn't. I needed more. I needed her to admit it. So I started dropping bait. One night, I casually asked how Carla was doing. MIA didn't miss a beat. She's stressed, she sighed, stirring her tea. Trying another round of IVF soon. Liar. I smiled. Maybe we should visit her together next time. She paused. Oh, no, she's not up for guests lately. And it's a girl stuff anyway. You'd be bored. Sure I would. Another time I accidentally left a baby product ad open on the laptop. She looked at the screen and said, not now, babe. We've got enough on our plate. The gall of this woman. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay next to her, staring at the ceiling, thinking about how the woman I married, my partner of 9 years, had turned into a secretive stranger. And the worst part? She chose to betray me. She chose to carry a child for someone else without even thinking I deserved to know. But I wasn't just angry. I felt something deeper, used. She had used my support, my stability, my trust, and twisted it into a cover for her deception. I finally broke when I found a hidden burner phone. It was in the back of her makeup drawer, wrapped in a scarf. I only checked because I noticed she'd been oddly protective of her phone lately. The burner had exactly 1 contact saved, Carla. I opened the texts and felt the blood drain from my face. MIA, he still has no idea. I swear he's like a puppy, loyal and blind. Carla, just hang in there. Once it's over, he doesn't need to know. It's not like it's his kid. MIA, the clinic said everything looks perfect. If he ever finds out, I'll just say it was for money. He'll believe that more than the truth. I nearly crushed the phone in my hand. That was it. She didn't just hide the surrogacy. She mocked me. She thought I'd never find out. And worse, she was ready to lie again if I ever did. I waited until she was asleep, then took screenshots of everything. Emails, texts, contracts. All of it. Backed them up to a cloud account she didn't know about. Then, I started planning the revenge. Not some childish act of anger. Not a screaming match or broken dishes. No, I wanted a surgical strike. I wanted her to feel the same shock I did. The same betrayal. The same loss of control. So I reached out to someone who had a right to know the truth. Carla's husband. Carla's husband, Brandon, and I had never been close. We got along fine at family events, football talk, beers, the usual surface-level stuff, but we weren't the kind of guys who grabbed lunch or stayed in touch. Still, I had his number buried in an old group chat from one of the holidays. I found it. And I stared at it for a long time. Should I? Would he even believe me? I thought about those messages. It's not like it's his kid. About how they laughed at me. Planned this whole thing behind both our backs. My wife, his wife, a perfect team of deception. So I sent the text. Hey Brandon, I need to talk. Privately. It's about MIA and Carla. Urgent. He replied 3 minutes later. What's this about? Something you should see. I'll send screenshots. But you deserve to know. I dropped the bomb. Emails. Photos. Texts from the burner phone. Everything. I even sent a picture of the signed surrogacy contract with MIA's name on it, highlighted. No reply. I waited an hour. Then 2. Finally, at 11:47 p.m., he sent one line. Meet me tomorrow. 10 a.m. Don't bring her. The next morning, we met at a gas station parking lot. He looked like hell, bloodshot eyes, wrinkled shirt, jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscle twitching. He didn't say a word at first. Just stared at me, then at his phone, then back at me. Finally, he said, so she's pregnant. I nodded. Due in about 6 weeks, from what I found. His lips parted, and he blinked like he was buffering. And it's not yours. No. It's yours. He staggered back like I punched him. They didn't even tell me, he muttered. Carla said we were doing another donor cycle. I didn't know, she asked MIA. I could see the wheels turning in his head. She told me it failed. That she wanted to pause and think. But they went ahead with this behind my back. Same here, I said. She signed the contract without me. Lied about the trips. Mocked me in texts. Brandon clenched his fists. This wasn't just about helping each other. They excluded us. Like we were obstacles. That was exactly it. We weren't partners, we were just useful distractions while they ran their little operation. Brandon looked at me with something between rage and grief. What are you gonna do? I told him the truth. I'm going to let her dig her own grave. She doesn't know I found the contract. Or the phone. Or anything. But when the time's right, I'm going to destroy her entire little fantasy. He nodded slowly. I want in. That's when it became clear. This wasn't just about betrayal anymore. This was war. Brandon and I met again 2 days later, this time in a park, away from phones, apps, and listening ears. He'd already started digging into Carla's side of things, and what he found was just as twisted as my end. Apparently, Carla had secretly entered one of their joint savings accounts 2 months earlier. Claimed it was for emergency fertility treatment. But Brandon now knew it had all gone to the clinic, paying under-the-table fees to avoid paperwork that might have tipped him off. They planned every detail, he said bitterly. Even used my name on some of the medical forms to keep it looking clean. But I never signed a thing. I showed him what I had, backup files, printouts, even a photo of MIA's contract tucked next to a bottle of prenatal vitamins in her bag. Brandon nearly laughed. You think they are proud of this? Like they pulled off some noble act of self-sacrifice? No, I said. I think they did it because they wanted control. Because we weren't useful anymore, just background noise in their little plan. That's when the idea hit me. If MIA wanted to play games, fine. I'd write the rules now. I started with a quiet withdrawal of my presence. I didn't argue. Didn't snoop. Just watched. Stuttered. Played the loyal husband. At the same time, I quietly consulted a lawyer. Not for a divorce yet. But for something more surgical, legal exposure. Because here's the kicker, in our state, a surrogacy without spousal consent, especially if it's concealed, can be grounds for a fraud claim. And if any marital assets were used for the process, that's financial misrepresentation. Translation. MIA wasn't just lying. She was breaking the law. I built my file. Printed every bank transaction, pulled metadata from the email headers, took pictures of MIA's supplement stash, and even saved voice recordings of her on calls. The best one? No, don't worry, he thinks I'm just helping with appointments. He doesn't ask questions. He never has. Lies on record. Brandon, meanwhile, was tracking Carla's clinic visits and back-channeling through a nurse he knew. He got confirmation that MIA had undergone embryo transfer and was listed as unpartnered to avoid needing spousal consent. Bingo. We were ready. The final piece. Timing. MIA's baby shower was scheduled in 2 weeks. Officially for Carla, unofficially their victory parade. Everyone would be there, family, friends, even her parents who thought I was too quiet lately. Perfect. We would turn their celebration into a confession. And their lies. We'd light them on fire in front of everyone. The day of the baby shower arrived like a storm I'd been preparing for. MIA woke up unusually cheerful, humming as she got dressed, her hands resting over her belly out of habit now. It wasn't a full bump, but I could see the curve now. Funny how I hadn't noticed until the lies pulled back the curtain. She twirled around and asked me, "You're still coming, right?" I smiled. Of course. Wouldn't miss it. She looked so proud of herself, so confident that her secret was airtight. Like nothing could touch her. That smug little smile only strengthened my resolve. The event was at Carla and Brandon's house out in their pristine backyard with white tents, blue and yellow decorations and those ridiculous "It's a miracle" signs taped to the fence. I stood there, playing my role, supportive husband, camera in hand, hugging relatives, asking fake questions about the baby registry. I even complimented the stupid cake. But Brandon? He was quiet. Cold. Focused. We had one goal today: shake the tree. Crack their performance. Let them start to unravel in front of the people they care about most. And the best part? We wouldn't say a thing, just let their own guilt trip them up. It started during the speeches. Carla's mom, wiping away tears, talked about how proud she was of Carla's journey through infertility. MIA stood beside her, pretending to get emotional too. Brandon locked eyes with me, then raised his glass at them. That was our signal. He stood up next. "I just want to say," Brandon began, "that I'm grateful to everyone here. We've all believed in miracles. But sometimes miracles come at a price. Sometimes they come with the secrets." The crowd got quiet. MIA stiffened. Carla's wine glass trembled slightly. Brandon looked at MIA. And sometimes, those who look like angels are just really good at hiding the horns. People laughed nervously. Then I stepped forward with a calm voice. "Speaking of secrets, MIA, could you help me grab something from the car? I forgot the gift bag." She blinked. Sure." I walked ahead. My hands shook just slightly, but I mastered. She followed. We got to the car. I opened the door but didn't grab anything. Just looked at her. "You ever going to tell me?" she asked. Her face froze. "Tell you what?" "You're carrying their child. You signed a contract. You lied to me." She went pale. For the first time in months, MIA didn't have a lie ready. "How did you?" "You left breadcrumbs." I followed. "You thought I was stupid." "I'm not." She looked around nervously. "Not here. Not now." "Oh, but now is perfect. You embarrassed me in silence. Let's see how you handle the same spotlight." Then I handed her a small white envelope. Inside, a printed copy of the contract with my name circled and labeled "Never Informed." She gasped. "Where did you get this?" I leaned in. "From your sister's husband. Who's been helping me. And trust me, this party's just getting started." MIA stood frozen, staring at the contract in her hands like it was a live grenade. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. No sound. Just wide eyes and panic written all over her face. I swear, if guilt had a color, it was draining every drop of red from her skin. "You shouldn't have done this," she whispered. I smiled. No, MIA. You shouldn't have. She glanced around the driveway, then stepped closer, voice shaking. Listen, you don't understand. It wasn't like that. Carla was desperate. I was just trying to help her. She needed me. I crossed my arms. And I didn't. She flinched like I'd slapped her. I asked you 6 months ago if you wanted another baby, I said. You told me you weren't ready. You fed me that crap while you were carrying your sister's child behind my back. It wasn't about that, she snapped suddenly. You wouldn't have agreed anyway. You're too selfish. I raised a brow. Selfish? For wanting a say in whether my wife rents out her womb like an Airbnb. She tried to control her breathing. It wasn't for money. It was for family. Then why the secrecy? Why the burner phone? The lies. The contract hidden under your makeup drawer. She had no answer. Just stood there, blinking fast. You think this ends here? I said. I'm not the only one who knows now. Brandon knows. He knows everything. And right now. He's inside talking to your parents. Her eyes widened. No, oh yes, I said, stepping back toward the party. Come watch the rest of the show. I walked in first. Brandon was standing in the middle of the yard, holding a drink like a prop. Carla was in front of him, arms crossed, trying to whisper something, but he wasn't even listening. MIA stormed in after me, clearly flustered, and immediately Carla's expression shifted to fear. Brandon, what are you doing? Carla asked, her voice brittle. He turned slowly. Calmly. I'm just explaining to your family what a selfless sister you have, he said with a bitter grin. She went behind both our backs and made the biggest decision of our marriage without me. Got your sister to carry our child without a single word of consent. But hey, family first, right? Gasps. Real gasps. I saw Carla's mother stagger backward, gripping her wine glass like a crutch. MIA tried to interject. This is not the place. No, I cut in. This is exactly the place. You planned it here. You celebrated the lie here. It's only fair the truth gets its moment too. Someone's uncle mumbled, wait. MIA's pregnant. Not Carla. I turned to the crowd. Yep. 6 months. Carrying Carla and Brandon's child. No husband permission. No legal clarity. Just a pile of secrets. Silence. Then the baby shower banner snapped loose in the wind and fell, awkwardly landing on the dessert table. It felt poetic. MIA was speechless. Carla was fuming. Brandon walked away. And me? I just stood there and smiled. This was only the beginning. The baby shower ended in chaos. Carla's mother fainted. 2 cousins argued about who knew what. Carla locked herself in the upstairs bathroom. MIA stormed off after me, begging me not to ruin everything. Too late for that. Brandon and I stood at the edge of the yard as guests trickled out. The mess we left behind wasn't just about a party, it was about finally pulling back the curtain and showing everyone what had been happening for months. As we left, MIA grabbed my arm. You humiliated me. I pulled my arm free. You lied to me. For months. I gave you trust and you gave me betrayal wrapped in noble excuses. You don't understand, she hissed. I didn't think you'd be okay with it, and we didn't have time to wait. I stepped closer. So instead of having a conversation with your husband, you chose to deceive me. That's your defense. I did it for Carla. I did it for family. I shook my head. No. You did it for control. And now I'm taking mine back. I walked away. That night, I contacted my attorney again. This time, with full intent to file. Not just for separation, but for a lawsuit. Turns out, MIA's actions opened a Pandora's box. In our state, concealing a surrogacy arrangement from your spouse, especially when marital assets were used to support it, could qualify as fraudulent misrepresentation. Add in the unauthorized use of health insurance funds tied to my employment. Let's just say I had a solid case. I filed the next morning. Grounds: marital fraud, emotional distress, misuse of joint funds, and concealment of medical decisions without consent. Brandon did the same. His case involved not just emotional betrayal, but medical fraud, since Carla had used his name on several documents to maintain privacy. He had proof now, thanks to me. 2 separate cases. One explosive web of deceit. Over the next few days, the fallout began. MIA moved in with her parents temporarily, who were too stunned to ask many questions. Carla tried to play victim online, writing vague Facebook posts about toxic masculinity and being silenced. But public sympathy wasn't exactly on her side once people realized she lied to her husband and faked her own pregnancy. I didn't respond. Not online. Not in texts. I let the legal process do the talking. But MIA? Oh, she tried. Voicemails. Emails. Even a handwritten note delivered to my office. You've made your point. Can we please talk before this goes any further? But I wasn't interested in talking. I was interested in watching her empire of lies collapse, piece by piece. After the party and the legal filings, everything about MIA's world began to unravel. And no matter how much she tried to spin it, the truth had already dug in deep, and it wasn't letting go. She posted a long-winded clarification on social media. A wall of text claiming she was only trying to help her sister, that the men involved had twisted the story, and that the situation was complex and emotional. What she didn't realize: I'd already uploaded screenshots with timestamps, clinic records, and signed contracts to a secure drive. No commentary, no dramatics. Just cold, undeniable proof. I quietly shared the link with everyone who had been at the baby shower. No hashtags, no emojis, just a single message. Since we are being honest now. The silence after that was glorious. Her family stopped defending her. Friends stopped calling. Even Carla's miracle baby Facebook post was taken down within hours. And then came the biggest blow yet. MIA had used my employer's insurance to cover some of her fertility treatments, marking herself as my dependent for pre-authorization. A violation of our policy terms. I didn't even have to say a word. My HR department contacted me when a red flag hit their system. Mr. Collins, we noticed some inconsistencies in recent medical claims. I confirmed everything. Calmly. Professionally. They launched their own inquiry. MIA received a formal letter days later. The company was seeking reimbursement for unauthorized medical expenses, over $14,000. She'd committed insurance fraud, and now she had 30 days to pay or face legal escalation. That's when her calls started turning frantic. Please, we need to talk. You can't let them do this to me. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I didn't reply. She showed up outside my building one afternoon, waiting in her car, tear-streaked and desperate. I walked right past her. I gave her nothing, not anger, not attention, not closure. And that silence. It broke her. A week later, she texted, "I'm sorry. You didn't deserve any of this. I made the biggest mistake of my life. I didn't delete it. I just saved it right alongside every other file in the case I was building." Meanwhile, Brandon's case against Carla had legs of its own. He was going after partial custody if the child was born, arguing he never consented to the surrogacy and that Carla had falsified documents in his name. It was messy. It was brutal. And it was just getting started. But the best part? Carla was starting to crack. She sent Brandon a message that read, "Maybe we should have just told them. This is ruining everything." You're damn right it is. And I wasn't even close to finished yet. Just when I thought the worst was behind me, the truth twisted the knife even deeper. It started when Brandon called me out of the blue. I hadn't heard from him in over a week. We were both buried in legal chaos, and I figured we'd reconnect when the dust settled. But his voice on the phone wasn't angry this time. It was broken. "Man. I need you to come over," he said, almost whispering. "Now. Please." 15 minutes later, I pulled into his driveway. He was standing outside, holding a manila envelope like it weighed 100 pounds. He didn't speak right away. Just stared at me, then held the envelope out. "What's this?" she asked. He swallowed hard. "DNA test." I blinked. "Already?" I thought the baby hadn't been born yet. "It hasn't." "But..." I got suspicious. Something wasn't sitting right with me. The timeline. The clinic paperwork. So I paid a guy real low-key and had them cross-check the embryo records with my genetic markers. My stomach dropped. I opened the envelope and there it was. Lab-certified results. Probability of genetic relation to Brandon, 0%. Not 50. Not 25. 0. I looked up at him. "Then who's the father?" He let out a bitter laugh. "You're not gonna believe it." Then he handed me another paper. "Donor match, William Sanders." I felt the name like a punch to the ribs. William Sanders was Carla's ex. The one she swore was toxic. The guy she claimed cheated on her and left her in therapy for 2 years. She had cut off all ties, or so we thought. Brandon rubbed his temples. "They never used my sperm. They used his." Carla and MIA arranged for it. They told the clinic it was anonymous, but they pulled strings. Paid cash. Lied on the paperwork. I sat down on the front step, stunned. "So you're telling me our wives not only lied to us about the surrogacy, they conspired to bring back the one guy you hated most and made him the father of this child?" He nodded. "And they were never going to tell me. Or you. Or anyone." My mind reeled. The betrayal had gone from emotional to surgical. They didn't just break our trust, they engineered an entire fantasy, cut from deception, stitched with arrogance and dressed up as altruism. And suddenly, it all made sense. The secrecy. The fake IVF cycle. The emotional breakdowns. The smug looks. MIA didn't just betray me. She became a willing accomplice in Carla's scheme to genetically link herself to a man she was still in love with and pretend it was all noble. I stood up slowly. "This changes everything." Brandon looked at me. "I want to burn it all down." I nodded. "Then let's light the match." There comes a point when you stop trying to fix what's broken and start showing people who broke it. That moment had come. After the DNA results, Brandon and I knew this wasn't just a betrayal. It was a calculated operation. MIA and Carla had orchestrated an emotional and genetic fraud hidden behind family loyalty and female empowerment while dragging us around like clueless spectators. We decided it had to end publicly. Not out of spite, out of principle. Because people like them thrive in the shadows. And it was time we dragged them into the light. The perfect opportunity. A family mediation meeting scheduled by MIA's parents. They had insisted we all sit down and talk things out like adults. They wanted closure. Understanding. Maybe even forgiveness. They were about to get something very different. The meeting was hosted at a neutral location, a rented hall at a community center. Chairs arranged in a circle. Coffee in the back. So civil. So peaceful. Too bad it wouldn't stay that way. MIA showed up in soft colors, hair done, fake tears already shimmering in her eyes. Carla was quiet but alert, sticking close to her sister like they were still in charge of the narrative. Brandon and I arrived last, calm and collected. We sat, waited, and let the pleasantries fizzle out. Then MIA's mother cleared her throat. "We are here because there's been a lot of confusion and pain. But we believe, with open hearts, we can find a path forward." I smiled. "Great. Let's start with truth, shall we?" I pulled a folder from my bag and placed it gently in the center of the table. Inside, copies of the surrogacy contract MIA signed without spousal consent. Clinic receipts charged to my insurance. Screenshots of burner phone messages. Embryo records showing donor ID. And finally, the DNA test. Carla's hands began to shake before she even opened it. MIA whispered, "What is this?" Brandon leaned forward. Proof. That you lied. That you both lied. Over and over again. Carla's dad reached for the papers, reading slowly, confusion turning to horror. This says the father isn't Brandon. I nodded. That's right. It's William Sanders. You know, the one Carla said ruined her life. Gasps echoed around the room. Carla snapped, this isn't fair. You went behind our backs. No, Brandon interrupted. You went behind ours. You used us. Tricked us. Built an entire life on a lie. And now? The truth gets to breathe. MIA tried to speak, but her voice cracked. Please. Let's talk privately. No more secrets, I said. No more rooms where the truth has to knock to be let in. Her parents were pale. Carla was crying now. Brandon stood up and looked around. I'll be filing for divorce this week. And I'll be contesting any parental rights. Because this child was conceived through deception. And I will not raise another man's baby built on a lie. I stood too. And me. I'm filing for damages. Financial, emotional, legal. You forged your way into motherhood, MIA, and now you're going to find out what that costs. No one spoke after that. We walked out, leaving the folder of truth behind like a bomb with the pin pulled. You never truly know someone until you see them sitting across from you in court. MIA looked nothing like the woman I once married. The makeup was heavier now, as if trying to cover the cracks in her image. Her hair was stiff, her smile forced. The confident, scheming woman who once bragged about manipulating me in secret emails now looked cornered. And she was. My attorney opened with a clear, devastating statement, this case is not about a failed marriage. It is about calculated deception, misuse of shared assets, and medical fraud carried out by the defendant against her husband under the guise of family obligation. Every shred of evidence, bank statements, emails, clinic documents, and most importantly, the DNA test, was laid out in detail. MIA's face got paler with every slide on the projector. Then came the insurance fraud claim. My employer had officially reported her for unauthorized use of dependent medical benefits. That alone carried potential fines and even criminal penalties. MIA's defense. A weak attempt at justification. I was under emotional pressure. My sister was desperate. I didn't know how to tell him. My lawyer leaned forward. So you decided to commit fraud instead? Silence. The judge didn't even blink. Did your husband consent to the surrogacy? No. Did you inform him about the embryo transfer? No. Did you use his insurance for treatments under false pretenses? Yes. That was all we needed. Meanwhile, in a courtroom down the hall, Brandon's case was heating up. His lawyer filed to have Carla's parental rights limited, arguing that she'd conspired to deceive him, forged his signature on clinic consent forms, and intentionally withheld biological paternity. Carla fought back viciously, but the donor evidence crushed her credibility. And once Brandon submitted the sworn clinic testimony proving the sperm used wasn't his, the court had no choice. He was granted the right to refuse paternity, pending further court evaluations after the child was born. And MIA. She was served with civil charges for fraud, and her chances of keeping any marital assets were officially on life support. She tried to pull the sympathy card, crying on the stand, talking about how hard it was to watch her sister suffer. But the judge didn't flinch. You had other options. You chose deception. When court ended that day, MIA chased after me in the parking lot. Her voice cracked as she begged, can't we just start over? We can move past this. I stopped and turned. There's no we, MIA. There's just me, finally moving forward. And you? You're going to live with the consequences of the choices you made. Then I got in my car and drove off. In my rearview mirror, she looked small. Powerless. Exactly what she made me feel all those months ago. Except I came back stronger. And now she gets to face what I already survived. They say karma doesn't need a deadline, it just shows up when you least expect it. For MIA, that day came faster than she ever saw coming. The court's decision came down hard. Not only was I granted a full divorce with no alimony, but the judge also awarded me restitution for financial damages, citing her fraudulent use of insurance and intentional concealment of major marital decisions. She owed me over $28,000, and the fines from the insurance company brought that total over $40,000. She tried to appeal. She lost. And that was just the start. MIA's reputation began to unravel in the very social circles where she once bragged about being a modern woman doing the right thing. The same moms group that used to praise her for her generosity began quietly removing her from group chats. Word had gotten around, first whispers, then full conversations. It didn't take long for her job to catch wind. HR at her firm requested a review meeting, citing a morality clause in her employment contract. She worked in a family-focused company that heavily marketed integrity, honesty, and transparency. She didn't last the week. Brandon told me Carla wasn't doing much better. After the truth about the donor came out, Carla's parents cut off support, disgusted by the lengths she'd gone to lie to her own husband and by extension, to them. They moved out of their shared home, and Brandon listed the house for sale. He planned to start over somewhere far away. As for the child, a complicated legal battle loomed. Carla still planned to raise the baby, but now under scrutiny from both family services and the clinic's legal board. Turns out, falsifying paperwork and manipulating donor policies violates more than just trust, it violates state regulations. And the donor? William Sanders. He had no idea any of this had happened. Brandon contacted him anonymously, just to confirm that he hadn't signed off on embryo use, and he hadn't. William was now considering his own lawsuit against the clinic and Carla for unauthorized use of his genetic material. This entire thing had become radioactive. MIA messaged me again a few days later. Her tone had changed. No more pleading. No more apologies. Just bitterness. You ruined everything. You didn't have to go this far. I read it. Paused. Then replied with one line. No, MIA, you did. She blocked me right after. But it didn't matter. I'd said everything I needed to say. She had built her life on a throne of lies and had the audacity to think no one would knock it down. Now she was broke. Alone. Disgraced. And me. I wasn't just surviving. I was rebuilding. It's strange how quiet life feels after a storm like that passes. You'd think the silence would be uncomfortable. But for me, it was peace. For the first time in months, maybe even years, I could breathe without wondering what lie was waiting around the corner. I moved into a new apartment across town, not too fancy, but clean, bright, and mine. Every object in it, every wall, every coffee mug, was free of deception. There were no hidden phones, no whispered calls, no fake trips to visit Carla. It was freedom. And then something unexpected happened. People started reaching out. Old friends I hadn't heard from in ages sent messages, saw what happened. Can't believe it. You didn't deserve that. Even a couple of MIA's former friends quietly admitted they had suspected something was off but were afraid to say anything. One even told me she always had this way of making everything seem like someone else's fault. It was just a matter of time. I didn't care about the gossip. What mattered was that I'd finally reclaimed something I'd almost lost entirely, myself. No more walking on eggshells. No more questioning my worth. I was building again. I'd taken a promotion at work, started going to the gym regularly, even signed up for a weekend trip to the mountains. Things I hadn't done in years because I was too busy trying to keep someone else's lies from crumbling. Then came her letter. Not a text. Not a voicemail. An actual letter, mailed to my new place. How she got the address, I'll never know. Maybe one of her friends, maybe something from the court files. But the envelope sat on my table for 2 days before I opened it. It was 3 pages long. She said she missed me. That the silence was worse than the anger. That she didn't recognize herself anymore. That carrying Carla's baby ruined more than just our marriage, it shattered her idea of what family meant. She said she wished she'd told me the truth from the beginning. That she wished she hadn't let Carla convince her to hide it. That if she could go back, she would have done everything differently. She ended the letter with, "I still dream about us sometimes." And in the dream, we never stopped being honest with each other. I folded the letter neatly. Then I burned it. Not out of hate, but because I refused to build my future with pieces of the past. Some things don't deserve to be kept. 6 months later, the final court decisions came in. MIA was found fully liable for all financial damages. She'd been forced to repay every cent she drained from our accounts, plus penalties and legal fees. The civil fraud case brought by my employer ended in a settlement that cost her more than she ever expected. And the cherry on top? A formal note in her employment history that would make getting another job in her field nearly impossible. Carla's situation wasn't any better. Brandon had been granted full divorce with no financial obligation to her or the child. The court ruled that since the embryo was created with a third-party donor without his consent, he bore no legal or paternal responsibility. She was on her own, with a baby coming and a biological father threatening to sue her next. As for William Sanders, he filed a lawsuit against both Carla and the clinic. A separate storm that was just beginning. Their empire of secrets, half-truths, and smug superiority collapsed like a house of cards in a hurricane. Meanwhile, my life. It was calm. I didn't rush into anything. I focused on myself. I rebuilt my savings. I even took up hiking, something MIA always said was a waste of a weekend. I reconnected with my brother, fixed a few strained friendships, and found peace in things as simple as Saturday morning coffee with no drama, no lies, no tension. Then, one rainy afternoon, I met someone. I wasn't looking. It just happened. She spilled her tea on my shoes at a bookstore, of all places. We laughed about it. Talked for an hour. Then had dinner the next day. There was no rush, no pressure. Just two people showing up exactly as they are, no masks. And for once, I didn't feel like I had to be anyone else. She doesn't know the whole story yet. Maybe one day I'll tell her. Maybe not all of it. But the important part. She makes honesty feel safe again. Like trust isn't a trap, it's a choice. One I'm finally ready to make again. Sometimes, people say, you'll never fully recover from betrayal. But I disagree. You don't recover by pretending it never happened. You recover by choosing not to let it define who you are moving forward. MIA's chapter in my life is over. Permanently. And now, I'm writing something better. This time, it's mine. And no one else holds the pen.